Yo, what's up, everybody? And what's up to you, Mr. John Battle? How are you, sir?
What's going on, Ryan?
Man, I'm pumped to have you. I'm pumped too. Like I had to cut conversation short before we hit record. Because I want all the good, juicy details on just your journey and yeah, like how you got into this world and go down any rabbit holes. And like I tell everybody, just shoot the shit. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
Just shoot the shit. But before we dive too deep, is we always kick it off. Tell me a wild story, man. What you got?
Wild story. I'll go back to my time at LSU.
Okay.
This is just one I just love to kind of kick off and kind of always tell people. So this is Joe Burrow's introduction to LSU.
Oh wow. All right.
So I played with Joe Burrow, 2018. We won the Fiesta Bowl, beat UCF that year. Joe just transferred in. It's like summertime, we're in camp, so we're having this quarterback competition during the spring. So there's three guys: Justin McMillan, he transferred to Tulane, Joe Burrow, and Lowell Narcisse. So we got a three quarterback competition. It's kind of getting heated. We had one guy transfer, so now it's down to two. So
Yeah.
pretty much we go into camp, first meeting at camp. Coach O was like, "Hey guys," he called like a leadership council meeting. I'm a part of the leadership council. He was like, "Hey, we're gonna go with Joe as our starting quarterback." So Justin McMillan had been there for quite some time, did his time, set behind some guys, and now it was pretty much like his turn to kind of take the
Yeah.
reins. So coach make a decision. The whole team is kind of like in front of leadership council. We're all like, "Who is this guy, Joe Burrow? Like, we don't even know this dude." So fast forward, we get into the team meeting. Now we're just it's players only. Now we're addressing the team. So I'm like, "Hey guys, Coach O made a decision that Joe's going to be our quarterback. Justin's going to transfer. So this is who we're riding with. Now let's get this going." So Joe just kind of stands up, raises his hand, was like, "Hey, can I say something real quick?" We're like, "Yeah." So he was like, "I'm gonna be honest, guys. I know y'all don't know me. I really don't care. I'm here to win a championship. So let's put all this BS behind us and let's go get it." And then after
Damn.
that, we're all like, "This is our guy. This is our
Yeah, this is the
quarterback.
one.
This is our quarterback. He's gonna take us to the promised land." And
Yeah.
a year later, he did it. He did it for
That's
sure.
wild.
He did it for sure.
But like that's like a perfect segue too, is like I feel like now that, and we'll get into like just like your journey, like getting into player development and everything, but I feel like that's like a hard concept for a lot of players to understand, of like going in and like selling yourself, so to speak, right?
Yeah,
Because he essentially sold himself to you guys in that moment, in that instance. And it's hard for, I think, players to do it with coaches too, right? Like of
yeah,
like I'm the guy. Like if I should choose between A and B, like why you? And they're like, well, like I work hard and I'm really passionate and like
right.
I love football or whatever sport it is. And they're like, okay, that was just like 100% cliche. Like you literally sold me on nothing versus like, because I'm fucking better than him. That's why. That's why
Yeah,
you want
I'm a
me.
dog. Right, right.
100%.
Yep.
So that's interesting that like that was his
Yeah, because
approach to it.
it was such a unique time because we were in transition, and he just came in the spring and just went right into like quarterback competition. So now we get to like fall camp, and we're having these preseason conversations about we're going to be 6-6, and we're going to be just pretty much an awful team. We have no quarterback, no identity. So we had a lot going on, and essentially he had to take that step into that leadership role. So
Hmm.
your quarterback, he's your general, so he had to come in like kind of
Yeah.
really a face first, like just dive right in it, and he did, He won the team over instantly that day. We got in a training camp. He's running around. We're telling him to slide. He's like, "I don't slide. Are you gonna hit me? Hit me." And we're like,
Yeah.
"All right." Then we hit him, and then he get back up talking trash, and then we're like, "All right, we got some special over here at nine." So
That's
yeah,
wild.
man, that's the origin of what Joe Burrow became as the Joe Burrow. So it was
Yeah.
able to kind of see that up close and personal was a huge blessing. for
Yeah.
sure.
And it's cool to see too, I guess, like here as well. It's like what you see is kind of like what you get with him as well in terms
Yep,
of just like
yep,
toughness, leadership, and stuff
yep,
like that. It's not a front,
yep,
it's not a facade. It's like it's the real deal. That's
yep,
cool.
yep.
Yeah. Where are you originally from?
So originally born and raised in Miami,
Okay.
in the county of Dade, as they say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I grew up a huge Hurricanes fan, and then the University of Miami. Sean Taylor was my idol. Him and I
Yeah.
grew up in the same neighborhood, went to the same barbershop, know his dad, know his little brother. So he was kind of like my idol in a sense. So I took a lot of my game after him from just trying to just run through people. Of course, I'm not 6'3", 240 like he
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
but in my mind, I was.
Yeah. Yeah. So then why to the Cajun state?
Man, Miami was kind of going through a rough patch at that time. So they got the ban bold. The NCAA came down
Hmm.
hard on them, so they lost a lot of scholarships. Then the Orange Bowl got tore down. They moved to Hard Rock Stadium.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of transition kind of going on at the university at the time. Florida became like the dominant powerhouse in the state. Then Florida State just kind of merged out of nowhere. So it was just a lot going on in the state of Florida at that time. And I was like, you know what? I kind of want to do something different. Went out to LSU, man, and I fell in love and just learned about the tradition, the history. Got connected with like Patrick Peterson, um, my guy TD Travis Daniels, who went to my rival high school, and they kind of just told me about all the wonderful things, how South Florida guys transition
Yeah.
and pretty much is have a great life there. So I'm just like, yep, sign me up. And I wanted to go somewhere. I'm a mama's boy. I wanted to go somewhere where my mom, she couldn't just knock on my door, right? She had to
Yeah.
give me a phone call in advance to let me know that she was coming up. So I was like, an hour flight is not bad. She can fly from Miami to New Orleans, an hour 30 minutes, but it is a 15-hour drive.
Yeah.
So again, if she wants to come see me, she definitely got to give me a call.
And I'm sure like all the food and the wildness and the
Oh
madness
yeah. Oh
that
man.
doesn't
Oh man.
disappoint either.
Oh man. My first game I went to was LSU versus Arkansas. Jarvis Landry had this crazy one-handed catch. He like reached behind a guy and grabbed the ball, and the stadium went crazy. It was like a fourth quarter kind of comeback. They won in the last like 30 seconds. And I was like, yep,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. So
yeah. I fell in love. I fell in love. I fell in love for sure.
so as you went there, was it the prototypical dream of like going there, playing pro ball, and then just kind of like figuring things out? Was that the case? And then I guess like just tell me a little bit about stint in terms of like pro ball as well, and like
Yeah, yeah. So, just a little background on myself. I have and had a background of just like film and production and media. So, initially, my thing was I wanted to do film. So,
okay,
film. That was my hobby. That's what I love to do.
any like
So,
particular type of film or just
no, so just script writing. So my
yeah,
dad is a drama teacher at my high school, so I did a bunch of theater.
yeah,
I picked up like TV production, was on the newscast. Picked up like posts and just doing like edits and things like that. So I kind of fell in love with the whole kind of genre or umbrella
mm-hmm,
of what production is. Did like an internship with Joe Rose down there with the Miami Dolphins. Did a legend in Larry Bluestein. He covered like all South Florida high school athletes from football. So he actually covered my dad. So been doing it for like
damn,
30
yeah,
plus
yeah,
years. Was able to sit down with him, just get on the radio, talk high school football. Again, then also to hop on with Joe Rose and be his intern. So I just fell in love with the whole space. So that was really a big part of who I was at that time. Got an offer from USC. Coach O actually recruited me, him and Coach T. Martin. That's the
yeah,
quarterback coach of the Baltimore
yeah,
Ravens. So I fly out to USC. I fall in love with the campus. I'm like, this is great. And I was like, hey, I'm talking to Nelson Aguilar. He's my host at the time. And I'm like, hey, Nelson, he's a South Florida guy. I'm a Florida guy from Tampa. I'm like, how often do you go home? He was like, I go home like once a year. I was like, You had me everything. I was so there, but then once a year, I was like, man, like a 6 hour flight from Miami to
Yeah,
LA, literally going from the other side of the country. I was just like, no bueno. Again, stumbled on LSU, man. Learn about this, this hidden gem of film and production with Celtic Studios, being in Baton Rouge. Um, Again, Louisiana just being like the number two besides Hollywood. They're like the number two, most shot place in America with just
interesting.
movies,
Yeah,
TV
yeah, yeah,
shows. So I just learned about this crazy background. I'm like, Baton Rouge? Like, they're like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like we got a whole studio like down the street. I took a little tour of the studio and just like, okay, so there is like, I can still be me in this place. And then
Right.
just football, the football side of it, man. I'm a DB going to DBU, Patrick Peterson, Tyrann Mathieu. The list kind of goes on and on.
Mhm.
Then I get there, I got Tre'Davious White, Jalen Mills, Jamal Adams, Jalen Collins. Then I do it, and I kind of take my lead as a leader. Then I got Grant Delpit, Christian Fulton, Greedy Williams, Dante Jackson, Kevin Tolliver. The list goes on and on. Derek Stingley. It's just a bunch of guys. So it's just like it makes sense. It
Yeah,
made sense
yeah.
from who I was as a person and wanted to kind of do this niche of film and production. And then it also made sense as a football player. So it was a perfect world, man. It was a perfect world for me.
Yeah. And then I guess was as you transition out, was there like this I don't know what word I'm looking for, like this moment of decision in the sense of
Mm-hmm.
like do I want to go play pro ball or and like delay like all the production side of things? Or
Right.
like I guess like kind of how did that decision go about?
So the beautiful part about LSU, man, is the university, it breeds superstars.
Mm,
So from Shaquille O'Neal, right, to Odell Beckham, to now you got Andrew Reese, Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson. So like the school, it as an athlete, it allows for you to be yourself
hmm.
essentially. So just a little background on how my perspective kind of changed in that was I went up to our guy, and I'm drawing a blank right now. It's gonna come to me. This is my guy, man. So he's the head of our pretty much sports entertainment department at LSU. So I go up to him like, "Hey, man, I want to get in photography." He was like, "Okay." We got a bowl game, Best Buy. We got a free gift card for like $300, $400. Everyone's buying TVs, laptops, headphones. I go buy a camera. So
Yeah.
immediately I pull out the box. We're playing Lamar Jackson, so I just pull out my camera on the trip and then just start basically just capturing the entire trip, just taking pictures, getting videos. I got the game day. We're walking into the stadium. I got the whole bus ride, us
Yeah,
walking
yeah,
in, and I kind of I get back into it, and so I kind of tell them, I share with him all this. Michael Bonnet is his name. So I tell Michael, and then I'm like, "Hey, Mike, I kind of want to do this thing." He was like, "Okay." So he was like, "Here's what I'm gonna do. Every time you're not in season, go shoot."
yeah.
I'm
Mm,
like, okay, so go shoot a sport. So basketball, we got Ben Simmons, the number one overall player in the country, first to be projected number one pick. He like, go take some pictures of Ben Simmons. So he gives me immediate pass. I got all access. I'm on the court, on the floor with the media. Oh, my knees are hurting. I'm in there taking pictures of Ben Simmons, right? So he published them through LSUsports.net. So now I have a published pictures through the
mm,
university. Then ESPN kind of get wind of it. He segues that, and it's allowing for me to get my pictures published by ESPN. Then now it's starting to pick up and become a thing. Now I'm known as this sports photographer,
right, right.
on campus. So the SEC network got wind of it. We did a whole story. I got a whole essential like
Damn.
a SEC network kind of feature on
Yeah,
just
yeah,
me
yeah.
and doing photography, and that kind of segue into me creating my own production company, which allowed for me to do like a tiny desk, with New Orleans rapper Currency. So man, I always been able to kind of still be in it.
Mm,
And again, LSU played a huge role in that for allowing for me to be again the player and also be the person. And again, so if you look at just the background of LSU and athletes, like your personality, they allow for you to be that person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let your
Yeah.
personality take over. Let that we're gonna let that be the narrative. That's your marketing. That's your branding. So again, I was able to kind of do that. So it was funny because I became friends with all the local journalists. So it's like these. So it's like they're like, John, like, what are you doing here? So I walk in. I got my media pass, got my camera bag. Again, maybe a Thursday, they were just interviewing me about getting ready to play Alabama.
Yeah.
I'm in here with him at a Ben Simmons press conference. So it was like this weird little thing, but I never got a bad write up. I can tell you that for sure
Right. Right.
because I
Yeah.
made sure they were my friends.
So that's, I think, like from a 30,000 foot view, very interesting, and probably like what you do now, because I think that that's one of like the most at least in my experience and like working with like college athletes and teams and stuff, is the ability to combine those two things together. Like you said,
Yes,
keep who you are
yep,
and do what like kind of you love in terms of like sports and athletics of
right,
like playing ball, of like, because I think that they think in like very like binary terms. It's either one or the other. Like you can't have
right,
both, or it's
right.
very like black and white in the sense
Yeah,
of like
very
it's
tunnel vision for sure.
yes, yes.
Yep.
And so like I'm curious of like how that much, because like my big thing is like identity, right? Like finding who you are and really developing and growing that person. And so how much of like your own story do you utilize like today within the player development realm of like hey, like I'm actually a walking example. It's like
Yeah.
you love to whatever the hobby is. It's like bro, like go do that. Like you could do that
Yep.
right now.
Yeah, so that's my selling point to them. So
Yeah.
I tell them, I say, guys, I said, you know, you have to find a hobby, right? You have to find something. They're all looking at me crazy, like, what do you mean hobby? I'm like, I don't care. Like my rule is have your cleats in one hand and have something
Mm,
else in the other. I'm like,
mm,
you can go professionally. I'm like, I went professionally and I'm 29, 28, and I'm here talking to you.
right.
So I went to the NFL. I got game checks. I was able to get like certain benefits and all that great things, and now I'm here talking to you. So you can go professional. You can do that, and but that cap, there's a cap on that. And so
Right.
once you reach that cap and ceiling, you got to have something else. So that something else is whatever else is in your other hand. So I kind of paint this picture of how I kind of went through my process, went through my journey, and just telling them how, again, this is the more value that you add to yourself, the more doors and opportunities will open for you. So my rule of thumb is, my favorite quote that I tell them is find your hobby, right? Your hobby can
Hmm.
turn into your passion, then your passion can turn into your career. So that's kind of my three kind of points there. And like every time I kind of express that and tell that story, I just see light bulbs kind of going off in the room.
Yeah.
So just I tell them, I'm like, guys, I walked in your shoes, I did it. Again, I'm 28 years old and I was a professional football player, and now I'm here talking to you. So you can go professional, but it's going
Right, right, right.
in.
Yeah, at some
So have a
point.
backup plan, right?
For
So have a
sure, for
backup
sure,
plan.
for sure. And what was kind of like, I guess, what was the tipping point for you to really get more involved in the, like the player development side of things? And I guess like, yeah, like being in front of like all these,
Yeah.
I'm very curious of
Um.
like people's like backstory within this, because it's like similar in the sense of like,
Right.
and I'm always so curious. I'll follow, or I'll like part B of that question too, is like, I'm curious, is it from a pain perspective or a pleasure perspective? And what I mean by that, like
Mm,
mine is like a college athlete. It's like I struggled so much. It's like I never want you to feel that way. Like let me tell you, it's like I know what it's like to feel that way. And so it's like let me use my pain to help you. Or some of the other people, it's like, man, like I had it so good. It's like I want you to experience this as
right.
well. So I'm
Right.
kind of curious like what angle
Right.
you come at it from.
Man, honestly, it's really both.
Mm,
So I was always that teammate that knew everyone in the locker room. So I would make sure that I shared time with everyone. So from at LSU, I made sure that I knew the walk-ons, hung
yeah.
out with them, sat with them at the cafeteria table. If it's a bowl game, I'm making sure if we're gonna go out and go party that night, I'm telling all the walk-ons, hey, meet me downstairs. We're going out. I'm taking you out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
to make them feel a part of the team and part of the brotherhood. So again, I was always that guy. I'll go home with different teammates, kind of learn their background, learn their cultures, go to Mississippi, go hunting. go out to New Orleans and just tear up the streets, or kind of go in Baton Rouge and go fishing in the Mississippi. So I was always that guy, and then as I progressed into the NFL, again, kind of the same thing, just sitting in the hot tub with guys and knowing their backstories, right? Like, hey, like where you from? Or how'd you get here? Yada yada yada, and so I kind of took it in a point to, especially during in COVID 2020, I was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we're on this like run of we're like 14-0. And at that time, man, the world was kind of in this crazy
Yeah.
place. Um, we didn't know if we were even going to play football. We didn't even know we were going to be alive at that point, right?
Right.
So I was just like, well, I'm stuck here with all these guys. I might as well get to know them.
Right. Right.
So I really kind of made it a point to where I would like hang out with kind of each guy. So if we don't sit together in the cafeteria, I'll go to your house after practice. Just be like, hey man, like what are you doing? Like, what do you do? So I was like, oh yeah, all right, cool, man. I'll come over after practice if you don't mind. So again, it's COVID, nothing's going on. We go to Target and Chick-fil-A to like
Yeah.
as a way to just kind of get some human interaction. So I just kind of took that time to kind of learn and observe and to really understand kind of everyone's point of view and everyone's perspective. And then I was like, okay. And I kind of wrote that down, put that in the back of my head. And then as I kept kind of transitioning, going through the way of the NFL and learning the business of it, um, was seeing how the game is, right? And what I mean by that is the business structure of it,
Right.
right?
Right.
How do you play the game within a game? I was a back end guy, practice squad guy, played a little bit, went from team to team, got cut at least 5 times. So I know the story and the journey of that. And then also being able to kind of pivot and do an internship with the NFLPA, learning the business structure
Mhm.
of the NFL, learning all the benefits, all the ways that you can um, kind of progress, just not as a player, but as a human with the benefits of the NFL supporting you. So learning that as a whole and seeing that whole full scope, and again going back to LSU, getting this great experience. So I just kind of had this moment, man, this epiphany where like a light bulb went off on me and was like God kind of knocked on my door, was like, hey man, like I think it's time for you to stop playing. And I was like, like I don't know, man. Like, what do you mean? Like I just bought a car. Just took care of the fam. I'm at this point of where I kind of got to this threshold. I was like, you know what, this life is great. Let me keep building,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then maybe we can talk about retirement, so to say. And man, it just kind of kept knocking. He kept knocking, and then I finally answered the call. I called my agent. And I was like, yeah, man, I think I'm done. And after I called my agent, man, I called Justice
Yeah.
Jones, who
Yeah.
was with me at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and was like, hey, Justice, like, man, I want to get into this player development space. Like, tell me kind of more about it. He was like, JB, he's like, man, I think you'd be great for it. He's like, I'm gonna connect you with this guy, Ed Jones. He has his podcast. He wrote a book. He's basically like the new guru of like player engagement. I'm like, all right, cool. I called Ed up. We talked for maybe like an hour, man. And then he gave me his book. I read his book. Then I watched pretty much every podcast. I took notes. I kind of made my own program just off his book and off the podcast. So I work at the University of Miami. And he comes down to speak to the team, and him and I kind of we finally meet in person, and I
Yeah.
just show him pretty much every. I'm like, look, bro, like this is. I got a whole template of everything just off of what you kind of been preaching, and so him and I have this moment of like, he's like, man, he was like he was just shocked that I had like so much interest
Absorb
about
it.
what,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
about what he had to say, and again, I just created my program, man. And he was like, man, he's like, this is what I do it for. He's like, this is why I do these podcasts when maybe I only have 100 views or whatever. This is why I wrote the book, is for people like you to take it, absorb it, and run with it. So that's just kind of the background about that. But man, yeah, like man, without Ed Jones, without Justice, without Miss Latoya Jackson, Miss Sherelle, at both of them at the University of Miami, Caleb Blake, she was my director. So man, just kind of without them, kind of wouldn't have been able to kind of be in this spot right now of being
Right.
able to kind of be in this role. So I mean, I really have to kind of give kudos to them for because I'm annoying, man. Like once I lock on to something, I have this. I just go back to my football mindset of I'm just
Yep.
like consuming. I'm watching film, I'm breaking it down. How can I get better? I get real analytical about it, and I'm knocking on doors every day. Like and so every time I knock, they open the door. So I have nothing but just kind of gratitude. So I kind of had to say that thank you out in public. But
Yeah.
man, it's been a journey, man. And again, so I see it from both sides. I see it from as a guy being highly recruited, 4-star guy, got the special treatment, come in and then have a good career at LSU and kind of create my own path, then get into the NFL being this back end guy, but still kind of way to carve out my own little path in my small little stint. So I see it from both
Yeah. Yeah.
sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think that's the perfect perspective to have because I know what this guy that's about to go first round, I know what the lifestyle he's about to do. And I know this guy that's a 3-star, worked his way on a depth chart, maybe as a teamer, but has one season to get it right. Right. I
Mm-hmm.
know that pressure as well. So just again, just seeing both, just being able to kind of sit in it and just really articulate both sides of it, man, it's really has been kind of a blessing for me to be able to have that perspective for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did, I guess, like, from, like, kind of walk me through again, kind of 30,000 foot view of like
Yeah.
what your kind of like framework philosophy is of like what you were able to take like from Ed and be like kind of make your own and basically your own system, right? Like
Yeah.
because at
Yeah.
some
For
point,
sure.
like when you got to Houston, is just like they're like, okay, like yeah, like we're gonna do this thing, but like show me exactly what it is that you do,
Right.
and be able to walk them through that.
So my program is pretty niche. So because I'm taking two things. So I'm taking all the things that I learned from the NFLPA, right? I'm taking all the benefits and all the kind of the criteria and the way that the NFLPA operates. And then I'm also taking it from the NFL perspective of just you're a rookie and you're going through all the programming that they have. And then also taking it from the perspective of coming from a LSU and how we
Mhm.
kind of did things, right? As being one of the top universities kind of in the space. And then also taking it and seeing it from Ed perspective and right and how he kind of did this. So I have this like uh, it's just a weird playbook, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I got three defense in one. So I got a 3-4, I got a 4-3, I got a 3-3-5, and I kind of combined it into this one perfect defense that works for me. So
Mhm.
again, just having all the I have this series that I do with the football team. It's called Pro Ready. And essentially, it's basically the same conversation that the NFLPA, when they come in and talk to the rookies, it's the same programming. So we talk about taxes, like legit.
Mhm.
We talk about like marriage, right? So in the marriage series, you talk about like, hey, like alimony is a thing. Different states have different ways of divorce, right? Let's talk about that. So going through the whole process of that and kind of just having again these smaller niches and where like getting young men to start thinking at a man's level, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's my biggest challenge to them is like, guys, like my job is to train you to transition from a young man to a man. So if you want to go professional, one, you got to understand what the NFL means. And so I asked them all the question, I'm like, what does the NFL mean? Everybody's National Football League. No, not for long. Here's the average.
Yeah.
These are the numbers.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
2.2 years, right? Not it used to be 3, now it's 2.2. All right, here's if you want to go to the CFL, here's all the benefits on the CFL. Here's how much you're gonna make. Here's the top. Here's the salary cap. Here's the player bonuses. Here's the housing stipend, and I kind of do that. I go from the NFL to the CFL to well, I had the XFL and the A what was it USFL whatever they called it,
Mhm.
but now I
Mhm.
know they combine now, so I got to go back and edit it. But just really giving them everything that they need to know, to whereas like you have this dream, but how can we make this dream a reality? And
Right.
then once you and now make that reality informational to where it's like you can really consume it. So where it's like, okay, if I know if I'm gonna make the NFL roster, because most guys have this illusion that it's just a 53. But it's like,
Hmm.
no, it's not 53. It's actually 46 that can actually go out there and really play. So, and then there's cut day is every Tuesday. So hearing that, they're like, I thought if I just made the 53 roster, I'm good. It's like, no, there's a cut day every Tuesday during the season. It was like, what the? It was like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
getting them to understand that kind of whole concept, um, and then again taking Ed's perspective, so his 5 pillars, and his fifth one being making a generational impact is what I kind of took from Ed and learned. Taking stuff from Justice that we did and just like really learning who you are as an individual in this time. There's going to be a lot of growing pains there. So just kind of, man, I've been taking pieces of
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
everywhere and just kind of putting it into this one thing. But man, it's been working. I don't know why, but it's been working. It's been working, and I feel like honestly, and I look back as me as a player, how I developed my game was I took a piece from everybody. So I look at we're in practice. I'm watching Tre'Davious White. I'm watching his technique, right? I'm looking at Jamal Adams and how he can kind of just shift his body at any time. I'm looking at Dante Jackson and how he kind of tracks the ball when it's in the air. So it's like I'm taking these little
Right.
pieces and including it into my game. And it's the same way in this space. It's just like I'm taking a piece there. I'm going to add it to me. Take a little piece there, add it to me to where hopefully when time is done, I can be an all pro.
Yeah.
I could be a first rounder. So that's been my perspective on it, man. Um, I know it's very long winded, but I hope I answered your
No,
question.
totally. And I'm curious too of because as you walk them through all of this, like numbers and data of like, because I do think that there is a big lack of like educational side of that, and
Yes,
I think with
yes,
that becomes
yes.
like honesty. And so I think that like a lot of people like for step one is to get really 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 honest. And it's even and I'm curious of like within like your initial conversations, obviously in your experience or specifically like with players now, is the level of difficulty to get them to be like 100% honest about like what experience they want to have, what experience they want in the future, like the real of it. Because
Yes.
naturally is like I always say, it's like most people like they think it's like fear of failure. It's really fear of judgment, right? Like they don't want to say as literally with the team. And I was like, okay, like actually, like you guys are going to say your own individual mission for this year. Everybody got upset. The thing, one of the athletes stayed with me afterwards and was like Ryan, I have to be honest. I was like, about what? And they're like, I just lied. And I was like, what do you mean? Like you actually said like I think it was like top two like most ambitious like things that you wanted to do. And they go, she already did that. And like I didn't want to say like the next step because I thought everybody would like judge me that like,
Right.
because it was so different
Yeah.
than what they all
Yeah.
wanted. And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, like I was leaving. I was going like coming back home and I was like tomorrow you have to like, hey coach, like I have to say something, like I gotta like
Yeah.
follow up because like that will like wear on you like forever, in the sense of it just becomes easier and easier of like, what do you want in a marriage, what do you want in your career, what do
Yep.
you want in a relationship? And so like I'm just curious like with your experience. And like one more analogy is I always ask, I'm like, if you're gonna go, like if you open up Google Maps and you're gonna go somewhere, what's the first thing that you have to put in? And everyone's like, your destination. I'm like, no, 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 no. Your current
Your
location.
current location.
That's the
Yep.
top bar. So it's like we got to
Yep.
be honest about like where you are right now. And so like I'm curious, like with your experience with your players of like, come on, man, like give me the real.
Right. So I just open myself up. And so that's how I kind of break that barrier. So what I mean by that, so when you're in the NFL, you're a rookie. Um, I know you've seen the hard knocks, like the rookie shows and all that. So
Yeah.
that's a real thing. So it's like when you go up there, you gotta say your signing bonus. So like, hey, I'm John Battle. My signing bonus is such and such. And hey, I'm a first round pick. My signing bonus is 20 million. And so it's like it breaks this barrier of like that uncomfortableness to
Right.
where it's like, man, we're all guys, we're all dude, we're all in it for the money, right? But we're all in it because we really love this game. And so once you kind of break that down, break those kind of barriers of the uncomfortableness, then it's like, all right, now let's talk this, let's shoot the
Yeah.
shit and let's have
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Right. So, and essentially that's what I do with the guys. So I pull up my contract from the NFL, like, hey guys, like this is my signing bonus. This is how much I got. Like this is how much they took out of taxes. This is how much I made on my first year playing. This is how I made from such and such. So to really break it down to them and allow for them to really see, like, oh, okay. So, and to where we can talk about money to where they're not uncomfortable,
Right.
right? To
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, he literally just told us his entire thing. So now let's talk about money. Like, guys, you guys are getting $100,000, maybe more. You guys are 6, 7 figures at 18, 19. I didn't get this. So I was 22 in the NFL. So
Yeah.
it's like you guys are way ahead of me, but at the same time, you need to know what that comes with, right? You need to understand taxes. You really do, because I was with the New York Jets. My signing bonus was 14,000. I pull my pay stub out and I look, I only have like 6,000 left. I'm like, where did my money go? Where did my money go? Right? Me and the guys, everyone, they're all happy. They're like, yeah, we're gonna go into the city, go shopping. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. We're gonna have a night on the town. I'm like, bro, I'm not going anywhere. Like I don't even want to go anywhere. I got $6,000. I thought I was supposed to have 14.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I'm cool. But that was just an eye opener for me to understand, like, okay, taxes is real.
Right.
Okay, let me learn about New York. Okay, New York has 48%, LA has 49. Okay, what teams don't I want to go to? I don't want to go nowhere in New York or nowhere in California. So, all right, let's talk to my agent. We got cut. All right, cool. Where can we go? Tampa. All right, cool. Yes, I
Yeah.
get all my money.
Yeah.
So just having that again, just kind of breaking that down and kind of pulling that barrier down for them to really understand. And so when we go to kind of like financial literacy and we do the spreadsheet, I make them put like, hey, put how much your NIL is. Like this is for you personally, like, not
Mhm.
to share with, but we're gonna break this down. Everyone write their number, write how much in your account, write how, so it's like I open myself up to where they can actually see and feel comfortable with having these conversations, because again, it's very important. I always tell them, I'm like, guys, I'm like, y'all gonna mess it up. And they're all looking at crazy, like, I ain't gonna mess up no money. I'm like, no, you're gonna mess up money because you have no clue of what money is. You don't know how to work. You don't understand the intangibles of what money is. So let's learn about it. Let's
Yeah.
not be uncomfortable about it. Like let's talk about it. It's like, if you liking a girl, you got to talk to your boy of like, hey man, I like this girl. How you think I should approach her? Same thing with money. Like look at money and a girl the same way.
Yeah. 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 And I mean I think that's so true. What's the analogy? It's like if they took all the money in the world and then they divided it up evenly, it's like within like I forget what the exact, it's like within 1 year it'd be exactly in the same people's hands. It's like because they understand it, they know
They
how to get it,
understand
they know
it.
how to attract it.
Yep.
And it's
Yep.
like you don't actually people confuse of like, oh, I'm a millionaire. I'm like, no, you have 1 million in the bank, but
Bank.
like you don't
Right.
live, your identity is not a millionaire because you're probably, like you said, you're probably going to lose that within the next 6 months,
Yep.
12 months, 18 months. And so
Yep.
it's like, yeah, like it's not really,
Yes.
I always say too, like this is my overarching thing of like you don't get what you want, you get who you are. And so it's like a
Hmm.
lot of people sit down and write down all the things they want. I'm like, that's great. Even an activity, like when I go in with, I'm like, okay, take 60 seconds, write everything you want down. I'm like, great, crumble that piece of paper up, throw it on the floor. Because most of you guys are not those people right now. I was like, the
Yep.
thing that you have to focus on is becoming that person. So if you want to be a millionaire, you need to figure out what millionaires do. You need to be that person. You need to
Yep.
understand taxes. You need to, the same thing in a marriage, right? Like if you want a long lasting marriage, like go study people with like long lasting marriages and be that person, not like, oh, this is just what I want and I get it. I'm like, bro, that's not how the world works.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yep.
man.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. For sure. For sure. For sure. And so I tell them this story. Um, and this when I was talking with a basketball team. I'm like, guys, like I got a teammate. I won't say his name, but him and we're in this group message, like four of us, and he signs this record deal in the NFL. He's the highest paid player in this position in NFL history. right? So he just texts us in the group message like, guys, I just signed my deal. This is crazy. And we're all like, okay. We're thinking like, all right, you get your contract, you're probably getting an extension, maybe getting like, 20 million, 30 million. Cool. Man, it comes across a ticker and we see it and we're like, how much did you get? So he calls the FaceTime and we're all sitting on the phone in silence for like 15 minutes and just disbelief of just like, how much money you got? It's like, what are you gonna do with it? And we're talking about close to like 100 million, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So a guy that this is your childhood dream, you did everything right, and now you receive kind of your blessing in a sense. And the first thing we're all asking is, what are you
What
gonna
are you
do
gonna
with
do
all
with
this
it?
money?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? And to have a legit, real conversation, you have those hypothetical, like if I had 100 million, this is what I would do, and this would. But to really have a real conversation and to really like have no answer for it, it put it into another perspective. Because again, when you're in the NFL locker room, you see money all the time. Like money
Right.
is, it's just when I was in Pittsburgh, so my locker was right next to Juju, and then next to his locker was Big Ben. So one day we're in practice. Big Ben's looking at his pay stub. Juju's like, he's like, what's something wrong? Something missing, Ben? He's like
Yeah.
making a joke. And then he was like, yeah, something is. So then he was like, man, if you don't mind, can I see your? And he was like, yeah, sure. So he gives the Juju, walks off, go like take a shower, go get in a hot tub, does whatever, and literally the entire room just like runs over, like what does he got? What do he got? And so we're looking, man, this man is getting $2 million a game check, right? So it's like he's getting $2 million every week.
Right.
So again, to have that perspective, so it's seeing it and really understanding like money is just a thing. It's not the end all be all.
It's
It's
a
just
tool,
a
it's a
thing.
vehicle.
It's
Yeah.
just a yes. It's just a tool. It's just a vehicle. So my perspective on it than the average person is kind of different because of the kind of the niche that I was in of being in the NFL and just how much cash flow is going up and down. So it's like I tell my players the same thing. Like, hey guys, like if you're projected first round pick, like this is what you got to get prepared for, right?
Right.
So again, just having those tough layered conversations, but opening it up and really making them understand, like guys, like this is nothing to be afraid of because this is what you always worked for. This is what you always wanted. Now let's just get you prepared to hold on to it, right? Because it could go faster than you got it. So just doing that, man, has really kind of just been a way for them to understand how I've been seeing in my short time of doing it. Of just again, just kind of just being flat out transparent with them, pulling back those layers and getting them uncomfortable with being comfortable,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I wonder, so what you talk about, like going from like, um, basically like a boy to a man,
Yeah,
a youngin to like somebody that like kind of understands maturity, right? Like understands life like a little bit better outside of, like money, relationships, career, and those type of things. Like what is one of like your key like points of emphasis in terms of like just helping them develop? I call it as a human being, right? Like
yeah,
helping them go for 18 to 22 because those are like, I mean, those are pretty big years, 17 to
yeah.
22, 23. So just like from a humanistic standpoint, what's kind of your like if you had to like if I was interviewing you to be at Houston, right? And I was like, if you could sum it up into like one word or one small phrase of like how you're going to develop them as humans, like what would that look like for you?
I say have empathy. And so
Mm,
what I mean by that is I tell them to have empathy on themselves. I'm like, hey, this is your first time being away from home, right? This is your first time being in a college setting. This is your first time really learning a playbook, right? So I'm like, you can't expect yourself to get it in one day. I'm like, it's a process. I'm like, and I kind of tell them about just high school. I'm like, when you started as a freshman, you weren't the top player on your team, right? And they all
right.
say like, yeah, like no. I'm like, when you got to your senior year, you're the top person, right? And they're like, yeah. So I'm like, all right, wasn't there a stepping order to that? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, it's the same thing here. I'm like,
Yeah.
now it's just you're in a bigger setting, but it's the same thing. So I'm like, with that, you have to give yourself grace. So like, don't beat yourself up because you didn't get it right today. Now beat yourself up if you make the same mistake that you did yesterday, today.
Right.
So it's like that's how you get better and become better. But you have to give yourself grace in this transition. Like even your parents, this is your first time. Your parents are sending you off to college, right? Give your parents grace, right?
Mm,
Help them understand. Like, hey, mom, I know you miss me. I miss you too, but I'm trying to figure this thing out over here,
yeah.
and I can't really talk to you until I personally understand how to navigate this space to where I can open up myself to you as I was when I was home. So it's like
Hmm.
again, give your parents grace, let them know where you're at. So I just think that's what they need to hear is grace, because the most I feel like what they hear repeatedly is um, like buying in. Like that's
Yeah.
what they hear. They're gonna hear that 1,000 times from academics to buy in to the weight, buy in to on the on the field of competition, buy in. And what they don't hear is have grace. So it's like again, allowing for them to kind of see those two perspectives of like, yeah, you can buy in, but when you're buying in, give yourself grace to buying in.
Yeah.
And so, and I learned this perspective when I was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin, he has a saying: "The standard is the standard." But the crazy thing about it is they don't say nothing about what the standard is. It's on you
Yeah.
to figure it out. So it took me maybe my first month. He was every meeting. The guys remember the standard is standard, and I'm looking around. I'm
What's the
like, is
standard?
it just me? Like, what's the standard? Like, we didn't have a meeting on what the standard is. And it was like, you got to find out. You got to figure it out. If you're gonna be here for a full year, then you have somewhat mastered of what the standard is. Now, if you're going next year, that means you didn't master it all the way. But in a
Yeah.
short
Yeah.
period, you have. So I try to have that perspective and just allow for them to just the human side of just like give yourself grace. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay.
It makes me think of too, like why curiosity is so important, especially like with the standard as the standard example. It's like because like to me, the highest level achievers in whatever realm of life you want to talk about is I call it like being, or I try to teach, like being obnoxiously curious and like the ability to
Yep.
ask questions. And I think a lot of people just read those phrases like that standard's a standard. All right, great, coach. Like makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And then just kind of like go about their business. And it was fascinating. I guess it's about I don't remember 3 or 4 weeks ago, and had somebody like on the show and we were talking and high level, their team's ranked like number 2 in the country. And I was like, just like with recruiting, I don't even remember how we got on the subject. And he was like, oh, dude, like super easy. He was like, the tipping point for everything is on a recruiting trip. It's just if they ask questions. If they ask questions, we'll take them like all day, every day. Because like I didn't just show you the weight room. Ask me questions about the weight room, right? Like
Yep.
ask like figure those things out. And he was like, that is like the selling point. So it's funny now. It's like kids don't get it. I'm like, okay, like I need you to ask a question to them this week. Like, what do you want me to ask? I'm like, I'll help you out with the first one, but like you're gonna have to start
You had
figuring
to.
out.
Yep.
And it's
Yep.
not, it's not a, especially when I talk to like younger kids like about this. I'm like, if you saw your idol, right? I remember very vividly talking to like a soccer kid. He was like in middle school. It was like Ronaldo or somebody. I'm like, okay, if Ronaldo was in here right now, you got to ask him one question. Like, what would that question be to him? He was like, well, I'd want to know like how many goals he wants to score next year. I'm like, but how does that help you? Like how many like that doesn't benefit you at all, right? And so it's like even with like college athletes, it's like you get opportunities to be around like even people like you, right? Like
Yep.
I can see you on a day-to-day basis. It's like, hey man, like how you going? It's like I would be in your hip pocket, like almost
Yes.
annoying, like to
Yes.
where it's like, bro, like next week,
Yes. Give me.
tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think getting them to understand of like how important that is, because like you said, is it's like if you're with Pittsburgh and you just read that and you just go about it, it's like you may not be back next year. Like you may have just
Yep.
lost out on millions not asking like what the does this mean?
What is the standard? Yeah, right.
So yeah, I think it's crazy. I'm curious too, I guess, of just like how much you try to like preach to them on like being curious, asking questions, even like to just your own coaches of like, dude, if
Yeah.
you're third, like, what do I gotta do?
Ask.
Right? Yeah.
Yes, ask questions. And I tell them, I'm like, guys, I'm like, I am you. Like I am an extension of you, right? I'm you just in the future. So if you want to know about the future, if you can ask your future self something, come ask me. Like that's what I'm here for. And so and the more I kind of say that, the more they're like, okay. But so like now they'll come in like, one by one slowly of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
hey, I want to do such and such. I'm like, all right, well, cool. If you want to do such and such, I need you to do A so we can get to step B. I may not see them again until like a full cycle. But until they come back, then they're like, hey, I finally did step A. All right, let's move on to B.
Right.
So I would say the biggest thing that I've seen, the more I've kind of expressed to them, like guys, like I'm you.
Yeah.
The more comfortable they feel with coming and talking to me.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. I know me as a college athlete, I don't, I wasn't really a guy that to kind of go out there and learn and be that, kind of aggravating net until maybe like my junior, senior year when I really understood. But when I was trying to figure it out, I was like, I have no clue. And that's what I expressed to them. I'm like, guys, I'm like, you're not the first one that was a freshman in college.
Yeah.
You're not the first one to be a sophomore in college. I'm like, you're not the first one to being redshirted to now, you have an opportunity to play. You're not just a guy that just played on special teams. Now you have a position. Now you have an opportunity to go start and get the starting position. It's like, I've been through it. I know. Like, come, come
Yeah.
ask me questions. The more you come to me and give me things, the more I can help you. The more I can help you navigate. So I'm like, it doesn't make sense to just be on a boat with no captain.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you captain your own ship, but you're gonna need, and I give them this analogy. I'm like, how many of y'all use GPS when you go into a restaurant? And they're all like, I'm like, exactly. I'm like, let me be your GPS. Like, let me help
Yeah.
you get there. Like, yeah, you can have your own sense of direction and know, like, I see traffic right here. Maybe I'll get off. But like, still use your GPS. Let me help you.
Yeah. And I think too of I don't even know that it's like a generational thing. I think it's a human thing of
It's
like
a human thing for sure.
and
Because
like and not
I
being the
tell
victim
Dennis as
either, right?
well.
Like
Yeah, yeah,
understanding of like who was it? I was listening to something the other day and it was just like and it like you talk about like moment. It was like somebody had it worse than you and is farther ahead than you. And I was like, that is the damn truth. Like
yep,
that there is not a truer statement in the world. I like literally had to take a step back and look in the mirror. I was like, there are a lot of people that had it worse than me that have made more money, more successful, like whatever, like however you want to go
for
about it. So it's
sure,
like
for sure.
not being a victim, just take a step back and figure the shit out, right?
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And they need that. They need the tough love. Um, but it, it's different ways. So I
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
I'm overseeing pretty much all of 13 varsity sports that we have here. So
Oh,
from
you do every sport?
yeah, so I'm doing student athlete
Damn.
development. So it's hard. I would say it's hard, but it's a unique way you have to navigate the space.
Yeah.
So when my swimmers come in and their biggest stress level is I'm taking this class and I have an 89 and I need an A. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, so this not nothing about competition. It was like, no, the pool is fine. But school, I am stressed out. I'm like, and having another conversation with, I have a 90 in the class, but I don't feel like I'm learning anything. And I'm like, like, what do you mean? Like, you have a 90, you got to be doing something good. They're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but like, I just don't want to take the easy road. Like, I want to apply myself, but I'm like, man, to look at the swimmers and see how detailed they are and passionate about, like, I got an 89, I need an A. And to have an A and to be like, I'm not learning anything. I need to learn. And to have my football guys come in and just like, I'm just here. I'm trying to make it to the league.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's just seeing the different. It's just seeing the different perspectives of like, man, if I can take what my swimmers have and put it inside my football players, like this would be great.
Yes, yeah. I know everyone always asks me, and I always relate it to because they always ask me like, what's the difference between working with like male athletes and female athletes? I'm like, oh, super easy, almost similar to like what you just said. I'm like, the female athletes, I'm like, have you ever skipped a class in college? Like ever? And they're like, oh
They're
my God, no.
like,
Like what would you
why
do
would I do
that?
that?
And
Yeah.
then my male athletes, I'm like, how many times have you been to class this week? Right? Like it's like trying to tally them to get to class versus
Yeah.
like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, the school, that's hilarious. I'm
Man.
glad that I'm not the only one that I know there was a girl the other day. Actually, I mean, it was end of like last semester, and like finals or whatever, and like already had an A in the class. Like it needed a 10 on the final to like keep an A, right? Like something just like crazy absurd. So was like studying her brains out, and then she was just like, yeah, and then like the next day I have to do an extra credit project. I was like, what, wait, what? Like,
Don't
and
you have
like
an
you
A
do like you
already?
get it, you already have the A, like why would you do? And she was like, yeah, but like you have to. I was like I don't understand. Like, help me understand why we already got like you can't get beyond an A.
Man, it's I love it because it's the maximum effort part, and it's like they hear that so much, and for them to really embody it and watch them do it is such as like I'm very proud of you to do this, but you know you don't have to do this
Yeah, yeah,
type
yeah,
of thing.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's one of those. It's like, man, it's like I love that you're doing this, but it's okay. Like
yeah,
it's okay. I was like, it's like I'm like, when the last time like you hung out? It's like, well, I go swim and then I go study and I do some extracurricular activities like far as like being on SAC and stuff. So it's like I'm like, you need a life. Like go to
yeah.
the movies.
Two
Like,
hands. You need the hobby.
like go read a book. Like do something. Like just de-stress. So and that's something that I talk to my NFL teammates now about it, is just helping them find healthy distressors, right?
Yeah.
So Anthony Chickalo was a guy that played with Pittsburgh Steelers, and my teammate Garrett Brumfield, they were pretty much like very tight. And so he told me this story about Chickalo. How he was like, man, he was like, I come home every day and I just wash dishes for 15 minutes. And he was like, why do you do that? He was like, it's the most human thing that I can do that can
Yeah.
remove me from being a gladiator of a football player to just being a human, to where I just sit there and I just wash dishes. And to have that perspective of being like, that's a healthy distressor. Whatever works for
Yeah.
you works for
Yeah.
you. So
Yeah.
I try to get them now, especially my guys that's in the NFL, of like, hey, like partying is not a distressor, right? You talking to multiple women is not a distressor, right? You doing, spending money on a new car or watch is not a distressor. Like that's just you just building very bad habits.
Yeah. 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 There's no other way to put it.
So let's find some healthy ways. Like let's go get a dog, right? Let's ooh, how about this? Let's go collect vinyls, right? Let's
Yeah.
let's find out different books that you like to read. Let's just engulf ourselves in the sport of golf. Like just really trying to get them to understand, because when you get an NFL, it's a different perspective, because it's like now you're in here with men,
Yeah.
and especially the rookies, when you're coming from a college setting, to where again, I'm in here with Big Ben. Big Ben is 39 years old. He doesn't talk to anybody but the old lineman and the rest of the coaching staff. Like, it's nothing. I'd be like, hey, what's going on, Ben? Like, how you doing? And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
we have nothing in common to really
Right.
talk about besides football. So, and when you're getting to that space, it's so hard to kind of navigate, especially if there is not a lot of like rookies in your
Hmm.
class. And so I try to get them to understand that perspective of like, hey, like, yeah, go have your fun, but yeah, bro, you need a hobby. Like,
Yeah.
you need to figure out something. Like, go pick up golf, go pick up, I don't know, if you like collecting guns and you got a gun license, go to the gun
Give it a
range.
shoot. Yeah.
Like, just find something to where, because you're playing football from April all the way up into February. Like, that's a long time to
Mhm.
be locked in, like, on this one thing, and you only have these 3 months, so to say, to kind of run around and being human, and you want to just fully indulge in it because you only got 3 months to be
Yeah.
a human.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think too is I don't know him personally, but like from afar, you look like Dion, just like fishing, shit like that,
Yeah,
right? Like, I
yeah,
mean, just an easy example to
yeah.
just
Just go.
like,
Yeah,
he's not always in the office. I'm sure he's in there a lot, but like, he's still like, okay, like, I got to go outside. I got to get some sun. I got
yes.
to
Get some
get the hell out
sun.
of
Yes,
here, to be by
yes,
myself in just the peace and
yes.
quiet.
Yep,
I think that's,
for
yeah,
sure.
easy example. Well, all right, dude, last question. I didn't pre-frame you for this one. Um, So if you were in a stadium with 100,000 people and you could only leave them with one message, what would it be?
Ooh. Um, I would say go out your way to see people.
Mm,
So I say this all the time: is everyone wants to be heard, everyone wants to be seen, and so as part of just being humans is to understand what that person wants to, to be seen as, and what they want to be heard as. So
hmm.
just go out your way, to see the next person. And I think if we do that, the world will be a way, way much better place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It makes me think of like the old like Dale Carnegie, like How to Win Friends and Influence People, and is like he's like
Yep,
the most beautiful thing in the world is somebody like hearing your own name being called. It kind of like that makes me think
yep,
of that of like it's just so easy to like meet somebody and like not even remember their name, right?
yep,
Like, and so I think like the step beyond that, like you're saying, is like go out of your way to meet the person, go out of your
yep.
way to say hello, go out of your way. Yeah, I like it. That's good. That's good. Yeah, yeah.
I gotta write that one down. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna have to put that on the board.
Yeah. Good thing we got it recorded. Well, cool, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you jumping on, sharing your story, sharing your journey. And maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Hey man, Ryan, truly do, man. Thank you. Love your platform, man. Love what you got going on. Thank you for being a pillar in this space, letting people like myself come express and tell their stories. I think it's very important for the masses to understand this, space that we navigate in player engagement, player development, because it's so important, it's so vital, that everyone sees the product, but no one understands this part of it, right?
Behind the
And to get
curtain.
that, yeah, to get that product, you have to have this.
Yeah.
So, man, thank you again for to carry the weight, to carry the torch, and to to keep it going, man. Again, thank you for having me. Love what you got going on, man. Anybody else I can kind of help you get in contact with, just let me know. We'll make it happen, bro.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I love it. Until next time, everybody. Peace.
All right, man. God bless.